Hey guys.
How's it going, folks? It's Lobo, and thank you so much for joining me today for the Penguin. But before I get into the episode, there are some things that I need to address. And for starters, yes, I'm Lobo. I'm the one who makes the edits and the rather inconsistent edits when we're talking about time of release. Sorry about that. And I know you're probably confused by this. It just out of nowhere, it's like, hey, here's a reaction all of a sudden, I guess. But some of you might actually know because it was about 2 years ago, which is a crazy thing to think about. I actually did reactions. This whole channel was a reaction channel. Before I was Lobo Reacts, and reactions were all I did. And then a little something called YouTube Shorts really started to blow up, which of course is what I'm doing now with the character battles and movie comparisons and things like that. That just completely took over and it just blew up more than I ever could have thought, and that's just primarily what I did for the next couple of years, and I never got back to doing a reaction. But doing reactions again is something I always intended on returning to, and that's why I'm here now, starting with The Penguin, which is the next chapter in the Batman saga, which is my favorite comic book movie, by the way. And I would imagine the next issue or thing you're wondering about that is, why are you starting with episode 2? Well, I'll tell you. It's because I did try to do episode 1 and then my camera malfunctioned. About 20 minutes into the thing, it just stopped recording and you can't make a video about that. So the first 20 minutes of my episode 1 reaction, plus my thoughts on episode 1, my discussion, my predictions and all that, is at the very end of the video. So after the reaction and after my episode 2 discussion is all and everything related to episode 1. Again, that's at the end of the video. If that's a little bit confusing, there are timestamps on the bottom of the screen. In the description, you can find the timestamp specifically named. So if you want to navigate through that and find anything you're looking for specifically, that's the place to do it. And then sort of the final thing that I want to address is like the matter of edits. I want to set everyone at ease because I'm not going to stop doing edits. I will continue them. And I actually think it's a bit beneficial because I know a lot of you are like, can you please do the Marvel things ranked, X-Men sort of edits? And I can't because I've never seen the X-Men movies. I can't do ranked videos on shit I've never seen. So that was kind of the whole point of this channel. And with these reactions, then you can experience it with me. So if that's something you're interested in, great, awesome. But if not, I totally understand. If you're just here for the edits, that's fine. Because originally there was about, I think it was like, I had around 1,500 subs before I just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth with these reactions. And now, because of the edits, and that just completely took over, I'm at 133,000 subscribers at the time I'm recording this. And that is a really big number. And honestly, it's more scary than exciting. I'm thankful and grateful to everyone who over the years has subbed and commented, and you've enjoyed any of my content, but going with these reactions, the potential pool of viewers is larger now. So it is quite scary for someone like in my position, because I'm not the most extroverted of people. Even though this is all digital, it's still kind of scary that it's like, hey, you have the potential for thousands of people to watch and judge you. But it is something that I'm just going to continue to do because it's something I've always wanted to do, despite what people might say, whether you like it or not. So hope you guys do enjoy. And again, edits will come at some point again in the future. But as for like specific things, like as I mentioned earlier, the X-Men and other things that I might branch into, we'll go over that at a later time because right now I'm focusing on this episode 2 reaction, and then we're going to go to episode 3. That'll be the sort of next reaction, not including like an edit in the in-between moment of like now to next week. So yeah, every Tuesday, these reactions are going to drop barring no issues because of course things with like copyright using footage, it's much harder to upload reactions than it is edits because usually music for shorts is fine to use, but when you're using a real video with real footage with real dialogue, they're always trying to, it's such a hassle to do. So I'm going to try for every Tuesday for it to come out around noontime, so that's the time you can expect these videos. But before we jump into the episode 2 reaction, I just want to say I know a lot of you guys comment and I try to respond to as many as possible, but if there's ever anything you want to talk about, like comic book, video game related, the place to do that for me is on Twitter because I'm there all the time and it's much more easy for me to navigate and see like when someone messaged me. If you just want to chat about anything, dude, just hit me up. I'm always on the app. And a fun fact about Twitter, it was during the on August 28th when we were doing the Batman there was the re-release of the movie with the behind the scenes first look on the Penguin. I actually tweeted out about that when I got my poster that I was going to see my favorite comic book movie of all time, and I was excited. And then the GOAT himself, Matt Reeves, put that on his page, and I was like, holy shit, dude. Ugh. That was crazy, man. For a fan like me of the movie, dude, that was crazy. I was freaking out in my seat, dude. I told as many people as I could. I'm like, yo, Matt Reeves. He hit me up. That was so cool, dude. Even Matts and Tomlin liked the post after when I sort of like re-responded. So that day I got a 2-for-1, and that was like really exciting. And I still think about that shit, dude. I have that screenshotted just in case anything happens. Because I'm going to remember that, dude. 2024 has been like a pretty shitty year for me. I know it has been for a lot of people, but that made my year, dude. Oh, that was awesome. But anyway, guys, like I said, timestamps in the description. And we are starting now with the episode 2 reaction, followed by the discussion, followed by my episode 1 reaction and discussion. So here we go. This is The Penguin, episode 2.
I want to see the penguin.
Oh, we're getting some Arkham.
Sofia, you need to go inside.
This looks so weird, dude. Oh, it's a nightmare.
I swear to God, one day I'll get you out of here.
Sofia, you're safe.
The hell kind of therapy is that? So she was like in like a trance or something then. Based on the trailer, I think they're gonna have like a weird intimate relationship.
You're safe.
I'm like definitely sensing something.
I'm not safe. I'm home.
Oh, he's at Blackgate again. Are we gonna get more Clancy? I hope to God, dude. That can't just be the last of them, right? That'd be such a waste. And there she is, Sal's wife.
Didn't know I was walking into a party.
Trying to force my hand to take a fall for you?
I ain't forcing nothing, Sal. Didn't know there's only one man big enough to go against the Falcone. Salvatore motherfucking Maroni.
Or I could drop your name to the Falcons right now.
Well, you're wearing that ring around here, Sal. But you're already gloating. You might as well lean in. They brought in Carmine's brother, Luca. He's a fucking pussy, but I got his ear.
I claim Alberto. You make good on the drops you promised.
Deal. No hard feelings, right? I mean, we're all on the same side.
Sure, us.
After you cut up my armpit, jackass.
Follow car. That's where I'll be. You don't fucking touch that. Sound good?
Yeah.
Boom.
Penguin!
Oh, he called him the Penguin.
We're in the middle of a gang war.
I'm just doing what I was told. Ain't my idea to close shop and move the product to Robbinsville.
It's your operation, means you're on the truck.
Wow, dude. This looks so much better than the teaser they did like last year.
Hey, why do seagulls fly over the sea?
Because if they flew over the bay, they would be bagels.
Flew over the bay, they'd be bagels. You get?
Okay, quips. Zingo! Duck.
The difference between the mafia and the government. Some of them is organized.
Jesus Christ. He's got a signal to them. I'm on your side, huh?
Hold up, Ivan! Fucking traitor!
That went so bad. He got Sal's man shot. I think he's bleeding. Love the music choice.
Castillo! Castillo, let's go!
I thought he was gonna kill me, but he's gotta play it like he's a victim here. Okay, I got it. I thought he was gonna take advantage and be like, payback's a bitch, asshole.
Castillo here's dead if it wasn't for us.
They ambush us because they take a week. I try to tell you. If it weren't for me, more men would have died.
Didn't do shit to protect our drops. The Maronis walked away with the whole goddamn stash.
We can get more money, gentlemen. I think you're missing the point here. They humiliated our family. Justice is what matters, and that is what my brother, your nephew, deserves.
When the time is right, the Maronis will pay.
The Maronis, right, okay. Well, open your eyes. They weren't working alone. How'd they know about our route?
She's just too damn smart.
You don't call the shots around here.
Johnny, neither do you. Show us some fucking respect.
Sorry, Luca. My apologies.
That was so sincere.
I know we've got our differences, right? You made that pretty fucking clear.
Is that right?
Yeah, look, I'm on your side. Running a marathon here.
Look at him trying to keep up.
Because there should be you in there. calling the shots. Al is dead. I left him too. More than those pricks. They sure as shit don't like you. They think you're crazy, but you don't need me telling you that. You can feel it.
All of a sudden, you're on my side. Will you look at that? My little helper.
All right.
You are scrambling for whatever dignity you have left, and you're hoping I will save you. I don't owe you a fucking thing.
I owe you.
Was he really responsible for sending her to Arkham? I mean, they talked about that in their conversation at the restaurant. All the missing posters.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking, kid. We can't.
Taco night?
Jesus, Vic, I said no cilantro. It's fucking everywhere.
Guns are on the way. Stop picking.
Girls are on their way.
Going up by a whopping 42%.
Jeez.
Don't forget the road. They're letting psychos out of Arkham now. You hear about this? The serial killer is 7 women, and that's just who we know of.
7 women. Oh my god, look, you see the background? It's Gotham Square.
The city streets are crowded for the holiday.
He wants me to be his driver.
So what'd you do?
So over the weekend, I stole myself an old Buick, but I fucking learned, Vic. I became Pinchero Venue's driver.
Where is he now?
Oh.
He's dead.
A few months later, Carmine caught him talking to the feds. Carmine saw something in me. Thought I was worth keeping around. And the rest is history.
And now you're Oz's driver. Funny world we live in.
Everybody, this is Vic. Vic, everybody. And my girl.
Take it up with the Riddler.
You're not wrong, though. Sounds funny, but it's true.
Detective,
Detective?
you used to work for my father.
What's his name? Flask? Bullock?
You coming to me instead of your family. Why?
I'll need discretion.
Let me see what I can dig up.
Great.
That's fucking right.
And here's to our friends.
He invited his guys, too.
It's the guy who fucked up the taco order. Vic.
I do mostly fetish stuff. Domination. Sometimes I work with cake.
You got a sweet tooth, Vic?
Yeah, dude. I knew these guys would get up to some weird shit. They're just like me.
Crown Point. I'm from Crown Point.
Yeah, my cousin lived over there. She said it's like a no man's land now or something.
Great reference.
How do you know Oz?
Funny story.
I work for him.
Really?
Yeah, I'm his driver.
Who is Johnny with in here that he can use this as blackmail? It's got to be someone's wife. What if it's like Luca's wife, or was it Milos?
I got a file on Johnny Viti. Once Luca gets his eyes on that prick Weasel Viti's gonna take the fall. You've seen me through worse. And I always come out the other side. Ain't nothing about Sofia Falcone I can't handle.
You sure about that? She's crazy. The Hangman. Is that a... Also, which comic was that from? Dark Victory, I think? Got scars. A lot of strange sequences with her that's like a manifestation of her mind, and very interesting.
I'll be right there.
Everything okay?
Yeah, just work.
Or is it your mom?
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just went for a walk. Hey. Yeah, nice, right?
No se fijó que hoy no es domingo, pero su demencia está empeorando.
Vigílala. Right?
It's gonna be this clip. That's meme worthy. That has so much potential, man. Once I see that GIF on Twitter, it's gonna be a happy day.
You promised me, Oswald, I deserve a better life. If my son isn't nothing, what am I?
Funeral starting.
Oswald.
I know, Ma. I won't let you down.
Oh, I got a Riddler poster.
Thinking about how much Al would have hated it.
Yeah, he would have left early.
We didn't have a service for my brothers.
They are dead.
Well, my mom, she wouldn't get out of bed. You know, for weeks. We're going out, she says. I was fucking thrilled. She took me to a jazz club on the east side. We danced all night.
You and your mom. What do you think it was that changed for her?
I'd like to think it was me, but I don't know. She died a few years back. I never asked.
Playing it safe.
Because it'll eat you alive if you let it. It's a hell of a lot more fun to dance.
The conversations in this show are just so damn good. Oh, the detective. The unnamed detective.
Ta-da.
He's still alive. Shit.
What are we supposed to do with him? It's my brother's memorial.
You said you wanted answers. I brought you answers. You better hurry up, because he ain't gonna last long.
Oh, she'll get the truth out of him.
Take him to the basement. Quietly. When he wakes
That guy's fucked. I love her so much.
Chick just got out of Arkham, so she's a little...
Falcone is a Falcone. You should know all the movements.
God damn it, just listen. My pocket, my fucking pocket. My jacket pocket.
I got the dirt. Johnny's banging Luca's wife. That is quite the tea.
Johnny Viti's fucking Luca Falcone's wife.
Yep.
That's just a cherry on top. I got all kinds of dirt.
We want our man back.
Yeah, of course.
Because if the Falcones get him to talk, he'll have a lot to say about you.
That he will. God, dude, if her and Clancy were actually married in real life and they had a kid, that kid would come out of the womb sounding like Kratos. It would just be magic. I almost feel bad for her with all the stairs, but I mean, it's something she brought upon herself. Yeah, she does not give a shit. Good for her.
Red Mercedes, okay? That's the car you're looking for.
Look, I want to help. I just got
Right, we pull this off. Viti takes the fall. We're one step closer to the top. You feel alive, Vic? Huh? Feel your heart beating?
Yeah, he's scared. I would be too, dude. That's no small thing to accomplish. You're gonna plant the shit in his car in front of all the guards at their house.
I got my eye on him. Get him. I need to know. That's all right. Keep talking. I already know.
You know what?
Told me you had one of those scumbags here.
What?
Really, Johnny? Who you got in the basement?
Clever. Flip the table on Sofia. And is this gonna be like her mom in her head? Oh shit, never mind. It's just a recording.
We should plan a girls' trip.
A girl's trip. Who's this?
I'm Gia.
Ah.
Your barrette's loose.
Oh, I can fix that.
I got it. There you go.
I mean, you're the one who came up to her. Don't start acting like this. Oh god, dude, he's so gonna get caught. I can hear something.
What the hell are you doing? My boss is called. It's in the bag.
Shit. That was a half-baked plan, just planting in broad daylight with all those guards. That was a stupid-ass idea. Oz has been great so far with planning, but that was even... You could get the best person in the world. It's no fault of Vic, man. That was just terrible, terrible idea.
Hey, look at me.
Say Johnny.
Just say the name Johnny Viti. He killed Alberto Falcone.
Johnny.
There it is.
You should make him say it again, really.
I couldn't do it.
I couldn't get the jewels in the Viti's car.
The fuck are you talking about?
But I saw it at the pouch.
God, tell me what to do.
You just gonna hang up on him?
Plans change, pal.
He's gonna kill him, because it ain't gonna matter now.
I gotta give him something solid. They've been looking at me. I can't have that.
Oh, why was he doing it in a circle? What a complete blunder of what they were trying to do.
We all gotta make sacrifices, pal.
Don't take this out on Vic, dude.
There is a traitor in this family, and I brought you someone who can give us an actual fucking answer. I warned you.
Close the doors.
Dude. They're gonna find the knife on you.
Ice the Maroni in the basement.
He's got to plant it on someone now. Who's gonna take the fall? Put it in his pocket.
Fuck you looking at? And it's dead to get massacred. What the Maronis give you, huh?
Fuck your mother, you dirty rat! Fuck your mother!
And now he's gonna slip it on him. Nice improv.
One of you is a traitor. A rat.
He's clean.
Wait, he didn't get it on him? He got it on him.
It's in his pocket.
That's not fucking. Get off of me. Miss Falcone, I swear to God, that is not mine.
It was you.
Payback's a bitch, asshole.
Do that.
Give me your gun. Your fucking gun! He was mine to kill for Alberto.
I made the call.
I mean, the bodyguard is much more believable than Johnny, like at this stage with everything going on, so.
For you. For your safety. Didn't you spend your summers there in Lake Como?
You're right, Uncle Luca. And I could use the time away.
Fucking Johnny Viti giving me orders now. Saying I gotta clean up. Supposed to be him in this grave, not these two schmucks. Lay down. Where you belong.
Come on, man.
Look, lie down! Now! How does it feel, Vic?
Dude, this was your stupid ass plan.
Hey, don't close your eyes. Look at them. That's a one-way street, Vic. You know how close I got to getting popped tonight? Because you fucked up?
Sorry, okay? I mean it.
You know what? You want to survive? You gotta adapt. Situation, you gotta think on your feet. You gotta be quick. Otherwise, this is what happens. Whatever Carmine threw at me, I delivered on every goddamn time. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Oh, fuck it. Hey, come on, get up, get up.
It's harsh, but he's actually right for this kind of life that they're choosing.
I saw something in you. Maybe I was wrong. You tell me.
It's still a terrible plan in the middle of day with all the guards. Just try not to get caught in a giant-ass parking lot where everyone can see you.
He killed my brother. A man I trusted working for them. These were in Castillo's apartment. It's what Alberto went to get the night he died. We were gonna run the family together. But Berta was taken from me. And I refused to let these old fucking men push me aside again like I'm nothing. So I'm gonna take from them now.
Alliance?
What do you say, Oz? You in?
Let's dance.
Playing multiple games at once. Oh God, don't end. That can't be the end. What? Already? Shit, dude. No. I'm not watching the trailer for the next episode because that just always gives away too much, dude. I can't believe it's already over. Okay, so now we're going to get into my episode 2 discussion and my thoughts. But before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys that after this segment is going to be my reaction to episode 1 as well as my thoughts on episode 1. But of course, it's only part of the video because the other half just is non-existent due to my camera malfunction. So again, that's after this next bit. And of course, on the bottom of the screen, as well as in the description, you can find timestamps if you want to navigate and select a specific part of the video that you're looking for. So in regards to episode 2, dude, another very good episode, a little bit shorter than I would have liked. I mean, it was really only what? It was like 9 minutes shorter than the first episode. The first episode was like an hour and 7 minutes. And this was like an hour. Well, this would actually make it 11. I think this was 56 minutes. So that'll make it 11 minutes shorter. But you have to think about like trailers and credits. But I think it still all works out to just around like 10 minutes. Just about 10 minutes shorter than the first one, which is, it's okay. This is something I like because they did release like the episode titles beforehand as well as how long they are. When you like average it out compared to the MCU shows, one of the things that I always sort of critiqued when I did watch the shows back, like way back in the day on my channel, is that the MCU shows tend to have pacing issues because they were only given, you have 6 episodes to complete the story you're trying to tell, and then some episodes were even close to like half an hour in length, especially for like the final episode. I'm like, what the hell are you gonna do with that? You have like this essential pivotal moment in the story that's all concluding, and you're like, yeah, we're only gonna give you 30 minutes to work with, and you had 5 episodes beforehand. Like, that does not give writers and directors enough time to tell the story they're going to. And I know that episode 8 is one of the best episodes of the show and also happens to be the second longest, so I'm like, not repeating the same mistake, and we have the 8 episodes, so it's looking good. And episode 2 was another example of how good this series is, and just how I think it's going to continue this trend, because I really think this is going to be, when it's all said and done, this is going to be one of the best comic book shows that people regard of like all time and consider it like a top 3 easily. I think so far it's been really, really good, but we can't say anything just yet because we're still 2 episodes in, but strong feeling. But we did get more look into like this inside man that Oz is playing, also happens to be the name of the episode. But we have the thing with the Maronis. I'm glad we got Clancy again, because I love Clancy Brown, dude. If you don't know who Clancy Brown is, they can make a multiverse movie with the amount of characters that he's played like in every medium. He's been everywhere: games, animated shows, movies, live action movies, television. I think he was in another movie I haven't seen. I think it was called like The Shawshank Redemption. Like that's a pretty big one. That's one of the best movies I heard. Well, like one of the highest rated movies of all time. I'm very much aware of that. Clancy, like more importantly, he's played like in, ironically, The Batman, the cartoon, not the movie, the cartoon from like 2004. I think he was like Mr. Freeze in that. He was obviously Lex Luthor in like Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, like, you know what I mean? He's played a lot of great characters over the years. Hades in God of War 3, dude. For me, that's a big one because I'm a mega God of War fan, dude. I've always loved Clancy. He's been in literally everything. Teen Titans, he was Trident. Like I could go on. Mr. Krabs, of course. SpongeBob, like you could just so many with him. But anyway, I'm glad we got Clancy. I just wanted more of him, but seeing sort of Sal welcoming Penguin, because he's like, hey, I'll take credit if you give me what you promised, which is the drops. But then Oz is still playing him, because we saw during, for one, when Sofia had the guy in the basement, he killed him because he was left with no choice. But when he was escaping with, is it Castillo? I know with the 2 L's, it's like a yo, and it's not Castillo. I think it's Castillo. I don't know. He's dead anyway, so we don't have to worry about that. But before he got into the car with him, he offed one of Maroni's men to like make it look like, hey, I'm a victim. I'm on your side. And I know for a fact that's not what Maroni would have wanted, but he's still playing him. Like, I don't think Oz is fully committed to Maroni and his family. He's still using him, but that's something Sal hasn't seen yet. And is he going to? He's a smart man, so maybe at some point. But for now, at least for now, I think he's more on the Maroni side than the Falcones. But we have Sofia in the mix with this alliance that we'll talk about later. And then he did give the file to Sal's wife, who, unfortunately, if you've not noticed, I'm just absolutely terrible name, so I apologize. But the actress who plays Sal's wife, I'm also very familiar with because she was in a few things I've watched over the years. I think the first time I ever saw her was in a show on, was it NBC? I think so. It was like 13 years ago, I think, if I'm doing the math right. It was a show called Grimm. But she was on. It's one of my favorite shows ever. But as soon as I heard her voice and her like charisma, I was like, oh my God, I love this actress. And she's like slowly popped in things over. But she was like announced playing Sal's wife. And I'm like, you have Clancy Brown as Salvatore Maroni. And then you have her playing Nadia Maroni. I'm like, that's quite the couple, dude. I was so excited for this. And man, I'm just happy that both of them are in this series because I really think it elevates it. Like all the core, not even core, even just like the cast members that are spread throughout playing all these, whether they're minor characters or they're just like a one-time appearance. I'm like, very, very solid cast. But getting back to that father, I wonder how that's going to come into play because he fumbled it. He tried to give it to Luca at the funeral, and then he had to give her something to like live because he messed up with having their guy captured. And so how is that going to come back into play? I don't know, because now that the whole idea of that was dependent on Johnny Viti. And also, I don't know if this is right or not, but since he's going with Luca's wife and Johnny Viti and Carla Viti, I think Carla Viti is Luca's daughter. So that means he's technically sleeping with his mother-in-law. Like, that's crazy. If that's right, it could be like she was remarried to Luca and is not the mother of Carla, but still, like, technically that's even more of a weird kind of slap in the face with the inner relationship and the family and stuff. But it would have been great if Oz's plan succeeded. I mean, that's the thing. When you have these kind of shows, you do have, it's not plot holes, but you have like the convenience of creating chaos and an issue with the way your plan is supposed to go, which creates the story. You wouldn't have a story if things got resolved. It's like, oh, Batman stops the day, like he caught Riddler based on the trajectory of the pictures, even though like the camera angle changed. Like if they would have done that you wouldn't have a movie. It's like, oh, the Riddler created a flood and there's all this chaos, which creates a power vacuum. There's a story. Like when you think about like God of War, if Kratos got to the top of the mountain and spread phase ashes, like, hey, the game's over. It's like, wait a minute, this is the wrong mountain. You got to go here. You got to do this. It's like the same thing with like Vic. He messed up putting the thing in the car and we have all this like shit. We can't get Johnny. We're going to have to pin it on someone else. So now we have like this anxiety-inducing moment where they're all round up and Oz has to be like improvise. He's on the spot and he's adapting to the situation, which is something he was telling Vic he needs to do. He needs to learn to adapt. So it creates a story. I understand. It sometimes it sucks when you have these characters that you like. You want to see them succeed, even though they're doing bad things. I'm like, damn it. If only that worked out. If only you got Johnny. But that also just makes me wonder, like, how is he going to fit into the story now? Like, when is that file going to come back into place and how are they going to... I would imagine that Johnny would be the next like domino to fall, maybe Milos, then of course Luke. I would say Sofia last, but I honestly think Sofia is going to survive the series. I think she's just, not only she's such a good actress, like her portrayal is just phenomenal. I want to see more of her, but I don't know if it would just make sense for the story. Like I feel like she's just too intelligent of a figure to be in a situation where she's compromised. And at some point, I think there's going to be like the reveal that Oz is like, hey, all along it was me. I made you kill the guy you said you trusted, your bodyguard. It was me. Like, what a slap in the face that in the conversation when she was like finally accepting that her own guy was the one who killed her brother, and Oz is just like right there. The whole it's in your face all along kind of moment. And even when she was talking about when they were having the meeting with everyone, when she was saying they disrespected our family, they stuffed them in a trunk. Like that's more important than like the supply, the money, the drops. And then Oz was like, here. She like slowly trying to get on her side, like mass manipulator. And so far she's been on to him. But now that he's sort of strung it the way that all the blame is on her own man, then I feel like he's going to be in the clear for now until like later on it bites him. I think something that might be an issue is his mother. We do know that in the episode he told her that she died, which is like playing it safe. When you keep your enemies close, you give them a lie by telling the truth, because he did give the information about his mother. There's always the idea of getting to your enemies is through their loved ones. That's a common villain thing in movies, is always hurt. You know, we attack as hard as Green Goblin would say in like Spider-Man 1. But it's true. So if Sofia was ever trying to get back at Oz, she would be like, okay, who does he have in his life? And she would start to think about maybe family, a mother is still alive, father, so-and-so. But I think by Oz mentioning her deliberately and then of course saying that she's dead, I think that would just completely make it out of her mind. Because for one, he could have been lying. She knows that he could have been lying about her death. But the fact that he even brought her up in the first place, I feel like was a great move, because then it's like, okay, there's really no chance that she's alive if he's just outwardly talking to me about her, like so specifically. As to what that pertains when I say like it's going to come back to bite him, the jewelry. When they got the jewelry out of Castillo's apartment that he had to plant, the necklace is still missing. Oz's mother has his necklace. Alberto's necklace, which I had imagined, because I don't think he's going to wear that. I think it was probably his mother's, and I know for a fact Sofia would recognize that. So that could bite him in the ass later in the series. And then if Sofia kills his mom, and then we have like this unhinged moment. I don't know. Something like that could happen, and it could just like completely deteriorate for Oz. I don't know if dementia in her unfortunate condition is going to take hold of her first, but I feel like something tragic, either with Vic, his mom, something really bad's going to happen that just like completely rattles Oz as a character, because we don't really see that. We see him when he has moments where he is impulsive, but then he's also upset because he was put in a situation he didn't want to be, like such as the one because of Vic fumbling the thing. But it's different when it's actually something very personal to him, something he cares about, which obviously would be his mother. And hopefully as the relationship develops with Vic, it would be Vic in his place. Because I do think out of everyone, Vic number one, his mom number two, and then Sofia, and like the order if they died, like likelihood, because I think Sofia will survive. I think his mom has a better chance than Vic to survive too. And speaking of the relationship, it did upset me, and it was an intense scene. It's like when you put your dad pants on, when Oz was yelling at Vic for failing him and putting him in his place, but also teaching him you can't screw up. Death is a one-way road. There's no second chance. You have to be perfect. You have to adapt. It's harsh, but it's true. I mentioned it earlier with well, I didn't mention it specifically, but like God of War with Kratos with Atreus, it's that hard degree of teaching. It's like disciplining someone, and he was doing that to Vic. So it's important lessons for Vic if he truly wants this life, because I know he's kind of backed up against the wall with his options. I feel like we're going to get more of an exploration in the Vic's background, because he did get a text from someone, maybe a friend, maybe a girlfriend, a sister. I don't know. I think it's going to be someone important to him, but also wondering about his family, because they said like his tenement was completely wiped off because of the flood. So I do think we're going to get some development of Vic, but now that Vic is in the situation of Oz like being somewhat mad at him still, I feel like now Vic is going to be out to prove himself, and he's going to need to do something big to regain that sort of respect in Oz's eyes, of where he was like, I saw something in you and maybe I was wrong. So trying to recapture that is going to be his mission, I think. But also, dude, that was just such a bad plan. Oz has had amazing ideas. I mean, a lot of it was kind of on the fly because he had to, because he messed up originally with Alberto, and that just kind of sent everything into motion. But with this one, hey, during the sort of funeral gathering at the Falcone house with all the expensive cars, with all the guards everywhere, everyone is here. In the middle of the day, go plant shit in somebody's car, and then hit the guard of Johnny was there. Like, it just sounded such a dumb idea, dude. But again, that's what makes the story. You have to have a story. You have to have these sort of conveniences where shit goes bad. So you get this drama and you get this development. I get it, but dude, I hope Vic makes like a big score. Like, he does something good, and it's like, yes, Vic's got some talent. He's got some skill. He's learning. Now with this whole episode, I'm just curious about the future, because we have like the sort of parallel like it did in episode 1 when they were talking about the slush puppies at the beginning. And then at the end of the episode, they got the slush puppies. We had the conversation with Sofia and Oz at the funeral when he was like talking about his mom. I mentioned this earlier when he was trying to like say, oh, she's dead. But he was talking about how after the death of his brothers, however that happened, we'll probably see in the future, I hope. Same thing with his leg. I want to know like what happened there with the scar on his face. But anyway, what he was saying about his mother is that after she got over the death of his brothers, they went to the jazz club and they danced together. And he's like, dancing is so much more fun than sort of like wallowing away your time grieving. And then at the very end, when Sofia kind of like, when she gathered herself after Luca tried to plant like his daughter to say, oh, we should do a girls trip to Italy. And then he reiterated the same thing privately in a conversation to sort of get her out of the picture. And she was like, you know, maybe you're right. But secretly in her mind, she's like, that is not what's going to happen. Now I'm going to form a plan. And that's what she said. I'm done with these old guys telling me what to do. And now she's forming her own plan, which is the alliance to Oz, however that's going to shake out. I mentioned that I think in the episode 1 discussion. There were the trailers, and from what I saw, I knew she was going to be in the antagonist, but there were a lot of shots where they were kind of like in a cordial setting where it looked almost like a partnership in a sense, and now we're going to get a full-blown alliance, however that's going to shake out, because Oz is still playing double man. He's working for, I say for because he's also playing them, the Maronis, and then he's still technically under service for Luca, so he's playing 3 games at once technically, 4 if you want to include Vic, because I don't know if he like truly has the best of intentions for him, because there's still some manipulation with Vic, but then there's also like the very deep beneath that visage of danger, which is the exterior of Oz. I can sense a genuine care for Vic, like when he helped him out of the grave, he kind of was like, come on, give me your hand. Like, and he got him out. But they still have the connections. There was taco night, and they had a fun time with the girls, and then he invited his crew too. So there are those moments which I appreciate, and I hope to see more of them. But again, it all comes down to Vic, and if he can make up for it in the long run, which I hope he does, which is a crazy thing, because that's always the thing with these kind of shows, especially when you do a villain thing. You want to see them succeed even though they're doing bad, and I think that's the mark of not only great storytelling, but also great acting, if you can get behind these characters despite what they're doing. And of course, in this episode, no Batman. Again, and I know for the whole series, I'm very much aware that we're not going to get any Batman, but it's just funny because I already, even between like recording the reaction and like recording the post-reaction like discussion right now that I'm seeing the memes of like in Spider-Man 2 when Toby eats the hot dog and people are like, ooh, Batman watching this all unfold, and he's just like, I'm not getting involved. But it all comes back to what he said. It's a big city. I can't be everywhere. But they also mentioned on the radio, they're like, crime is up. I think it was 42% So he's going to have his hands full with everything. A lot of people were also making theories because I'm always on Reddit and they're like, ooh, he's probably not even Batman right now. He's Bruce and he's trying to like rethink what is Batman because he's like, I can't be Vengeance anymore. But you have to remember at the very end of the movie, Selina talked to him about all this, about there's going to be a power vacuum. It's going to be bloody. And he's like, I know. So he's very much aware of it for one, but he was wearing his suit. He saw the bat signal and he instantly went to the whatever it was because he has to help out because he's still Batman. He's married to Batman. That's why Selina said, you know, who am I kidding? You're already spoken for. So he's not just like being Bruce. I definitely think 100% he's still out there doing something, but it's just like a gigantic city. So he's helping out with, I don't know. And also you have to think, dude, Oz was under his radar for almost 2 years. He was never a presence that he was directly investigating. Like he said to Gordon, I know who he is. He knew who Oz was, but it was never a big enough issue to confront. And it's also a little bit selfish too, because he was in it for like the vengeance part and not necessarily helping people. But now he is sort of, well, not sort of, he is redefining what his mission is meant to be. Which, of course, is just going to be like a massive part of the Batman Part 2. But in regards to this show, the more I watch it, the more I'm glad there's no Batman. It feels a little bit disconnected. Like, it doesn't feel to me like it's in the same universe. It does and it doesn't, if that makes sense. Like, watching this, I feel like it would be so weird and, like, not childish, but just so out of the norm if all of a sudden you have this scene where these gangs are fighting and then a guy in a bat costume comes and is just like messing everything up. You're like, what the hell just happened? It would be so out of place. I mean, that just works more to like, this guy's crazy. He's wearing a bat suit and he's fighting these mobsters, but just having the point of view shift really hammers that down. But also just for the story that this is trying to tell, it's so like personal and intimate with the point of view of Oz and the characters and the relationships, around him, that I feel like Batman coming in would just kind of like blunder the whole thing, especially with like pacing and payoffs of what it's trying to do, setting up Oz as like the new kingpin of Gotham. But anything related to like the Batman Part 2, because I definitely have a lot to say. We're going to save for the final episode. That's episode 8. I know Matt Reeves, of course, said that's going to be the bridge to the Batman. Well, the Penguin is going to be the bridge to the Batman Part 2. In whatever way that works, I hope we get Christmas time in the Batman Part 2, because that's what it looks like. There was an article that apparently said the Penguin is going to end, and then a week after the next movie takes place. But then there were people correcting them, saying that article was taken out. The context was out of place, so it's not necessarily. We might have a minor time jump. I don't know. I'm hoping for like at least a year, but whatever the time jump is, X amount of years, keep it like only a couple or a few. Please just do Christmas time again. I'm begging you. But anyway, guys, that is my episode 2 discussion. We can talk about it more in the comments or on Twitter. Again, I mentioned this earlier. I'm always on Twitter, so please hit me up on Twitter, because I try to respond to as many comments as possible. So I'm going to try, of course, in the comments, in my reactions, of course, on my edits too. But really, if you want to get to me, Twitter is the place, because as I mentioned, I'm always on there. So hit me up if you ever want to talk about, because I primarily talk about the Batman and anything related to this universe, just like almost every day. So that is the place if you want to talk about this. Again, we are going to start with my episode 1 reaction, followed by my episode 1 discussion, and then the video is going to end. I know this is going to be a very long video, but that is, of course, because it's really 2 videos in one. So don't expect this again for the future. I think a normal reaction for like a series, a TV show, is going to be around 40 minutes. And then, of course, I would say a movie reaction is probably going to be a little over an hour to like an hour and a half if everything lines up the way that I'm like imagining it. Too. See, I'm getting hiccups now. So we're going to end this and we're going to go right into my episode 1 reaction.
Four-term incumbent Gotham Mayor Don Mitchell Jr. was found murdered last night.
So excited!
Coverage now.
Oh, they got the news anchors back.
We are getting unconfirmed reports about a series of explosions along the city's seawall.
And we are live watching the Batman Vigilante atop Gotham Square Garden.
We will rebuild.
Bella Real.
Not just our city.
It's been a week since the terrorist known as the Riddler blew up Gotham's seawall.
Jesus. Hurricane Katrina was an influence for this.
Gotham's poorest neighborhoods that have been hit the hardest, especially in Crown Point.
Of course.
The murder of longtime mob boss Carmine Falcone.
Still can't believe the IMBD of Mark Strong was right all this time.
Rumors are swirling that Carmine's son, Alberto Falcone, is set to take his father's place.
Michael Giacchino's son, is doing the music on this, which is pretty damn cool. He's using his dad's theme here. Wayne Tower. It looks so good. This venue closed in real life, by the way. You can see the water's been drained heavily. Whoa! What are you doing, Oz? Maybe it's a safe? Secret hatch. No, there's a file. Yeah, it is like a safe. He's got the dirt.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
Is that is that Michael Kelly? He's playing Johnny Viti. Johnny.
Must avoid more bad publicity, Johnny.
I see you've made yourself at home.
Alberto.
Alberto, you're here. Good. Saves me a trip.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh yeah, I forgot they're gonna swear in this.
The goddamn scavengers. So thought I'd do you a solid. With a show of support for him. But you're Alberto friggin' Falcone. The new kingpin of Gotham.
Until Sofia comes around. Until Mother's in town.
Yeah, go on. This shit's good. Good.
Gotta be something else out there. A new kind of high. I'm talking about revolutionizing the game.
Is this gonna be the bliss? I read about this.
Real generous.
Pop always said you were a good soldier. It's what he liked most about you.
I thought he was just a gimp in an empty suit.
See what I got on?
Dad's ring. Nice.
Used to be Salvatore's.
Salvatore Maroni?
He wore Sal's ring as a trophy.
Can't wait to see Clancy, man.
When I was a kid, he was a gangster.
Rex Calabrese.
It
was a big deal.
He helped people. Short on rent, front you the cash. If he saw you on the street, he'd call out to you. When I'm 14 or something, he has a heart attack and dies. Still holding his cigar. They throw a parade in his honor. A friggin' parade. Can you imagine? To be remembered like that? Revered?
You want me to be like some small-time asshole? Would that make it easier for you to take what's mine? Or is this you? What you want?
Yeah, he's projecting.
This is your dream. It's so sweet, too. Oh, Oswald Cobb. What a guy. What a little bitch.
That's who he kills? What? What? We saw this in the trailers. I had no idea he would kill Falcone's son in the first, like, what, 10 minutes? Holy shit. Oh my god, dude. Wow. And this is the body that he throws down the stairs. You see this in the trailer, but I'd never... How could you piece this together? That's amazing. Bravo to Oz, man. You gotta stand up for your dreams. You always gotta stand up for your dreams, man. Somebody shitting on them. Well, you don't do what he did, but he let his intrusive thoughts win. Condemned. I think he's gonna open up a new club, rebrand the Iceberg Lounge somewhere else.
Hey!
Is that Vic? Yep.
Oh, you sons of bitches! Go, go!
Don't you try and run!
I'm sorry.
Hey! Shut the fuck up! You wanna shout again? You wanna fucking shout again?
Please, please, please.
Jesus. Don't take a breath. What do we got here? I'm keeping your ID. Walk. That way.
I do love the parallel to like Jason Todd with what he was doing there, trying to steal the rims.
Head first.
Lauren LaFranc said Penguin's gonna get his own Robin.
You disrespected me, you're gonna disrespect me, Vic? No. Which means I own you.
Yeah, he's gonna take advantage of him. God, I love the trash everywhere. I love Gotham to be disgusting looking.
Look at you now, you piece of shit. What do you think of this? Aqua Paradise. Yeah, it's nice. You ever been in that corner mart?
Buddies?
Yeah, buddies. They still sell those slush puppies?
The slush puppies.
You ever mix the flavors?
But I'd like to. In the future.
I'm gonna like their relationship, I can tell.
Looking good. Ladies.
Oh, they know who Oz is. I mean, he's going with Eve Carlo in this. Oh, maybe that's who he's gonna see now. Yep. I keep up to date with promo. I know what's happening.
Yeah.
Who's your friend?
This is also Jeffrey Wright's ex-wife, so Colin in the Batman Part 2 is gonna pass Jeffrey and be like, eh.
I need an alibi. Ideally for the whole night.
Ask for extra pickles and they give me two. So what, a normal amount of pickles is one? Makes no goddamn sense.
You want one of mine?
Do I want one of your pickles? Let your dirty little mouth touch? No, kid. I don't. Jesus.
I got ambition. I can help you. It'll happen. I do love, and I really appreciate that literally almost all of the trailer shots and dialogue is from the first episode. That's one of the things the Batman did, which I wish it didn't, is it spoiled a lot in the trailers, especially like the Riddler's flood and the final fights and things like that. Is it starting to smell? It's gonna take the ring.
Hold up there, Chief. It's a nice sunrise behind you. You should take a look.
Yeah.
No. Hey. Whoa. Hey, stop!
Do I have one of these? There you go. So listen, the smart play here is to kill you and stuff you in the trunk with Stinky over there. Be done with the both of you.
No. Wait. Hold on.
So as you can see from the screen, this is the moment where my camera just decided to shit the bed. Behind the scenes looking into it on how that happened, I figured out why it happened, and it could have been avoided if I was more attentive, but something like that shouldn't happen in the first place. It would take a little bit to explain, but essentially what I'm doing is using something entirely different now to record myself and as well as like the footage that I'm going to use. So in the future, fingers crossed, we shouldn't have this problem anymore. Because that is actually something I dealt with a lot when I was doing my reactions a couple of years ago. This was a reoccurring thing where it was just like, we're going to stop recording because screw you. But I do believe everything is resolved. And if everything did go swimmingly, then you're seeing this, which means my episode 2 reaction is out, which means it all worked out. And if not, then this is just a colossal waste of my time because I would just be sitting here recording for nothing. And I also mentioned earlier in the video that this is going to be my episode 1 discussion. So this is my thoughts on episode 1 before I've seen anything related to episode 2. I didn't even watch the trailer for episode 2 because anytime a show does that, I feel like it gives too much away versus like an actual main trailer, because that's just like footage spread out over like the course of the show, the season, whatever you want to say. But when you do like an episode trailer, then it gives away too much. So I didn't see that. I don't know virtually anything except for the title about episode 2. So this is strictly my episode 1 thoughts with no viewing or inclination of what we're going to get into for the following episode. So just right off the bat, no pun intended, this was a phenomenal episode. It's hard for me to say things like that because you don't really understand how little I watch of like new things. Like a new show I probably haven't seen in like maybe a couple of years. Honestly, since the time I was doing reactions, I have not really engaged with a show like start to finish. So it's hard for me to compare this to other shows because it's just, the basis of what you compare is just non-existent because I just don't watch anything. But I know from quality, like I can tell that this was, and from other people talking about it, that this was a really, really good first episode to a new series. And just from what I've gathered, a lot of people, it just has to do with the idea that you're doing a Penguin show. It's like, okay, no one asked for this. What can you do about it? It's not Batman. It's following up from a movie about Batman. How are you going to make this even worth watching? And just from me, I knew it was going to be good because, one, you have Colin Farrell helming the Penguin. Again, he's reprising a role, phenomenal actor. You have a stellar cast that I knew was like announced at the time, so I was like very excited to see them. And then you have Matt Reeves, who of course is executive producing, but he was also involved in the script work. He wasn't there writing, but he was overseeing, making sure like, okay, we need to get to this point before we hand it off back to Bruce, back to Batman's point of view for the Batman Part 2. So like certain things can happen, certain things can't, but he gave a lot of leeway for the show to kind of like develop its own identity. But just with that in mind, I was like, yeah, dude, this is probably going to be really good. And then reviews came in, said it was really good, but that's kind of to be expected because not that I'm doubting that studios pay for like good reviews because they most certainly do. But just hearing that this was good, yeah, I'm like, sure, a Max show originally, which then became an HBO show because the executives were like, damn, this is just too good to not have on HBO, especially when they had like licensing issues with the, like, there was some sort of like contract that they couldn't commit to this being HBO overseas, but then they said they found a loophole. And then it ultimately veered to being HBO, which it is now, because HBO is like the more like bougie prestige, like, oh my, this is where we're going to get the viewership. This is where we're going to like throw bigger budget products and talent at. So I get it. But just hearing all that, hearing all the praise, all the sort of things that would lead you to believe it's going to be good, and then actually watching it and you're like, that wasn't just good, that was great. And I do have to admit, that kind of caught me off guard because I knew I was going to like this, but I was a little bit worried for how it was going to be because, again, as I mentioned earlier, you're following the Batman, so it's going to be hard to switch point of view, switch the direction of Matt Reeves in the more sort of methodical, slow-paced storytelling, and of course Greg Fraser's immaculate cinematography that really builds the scene and just highlights that noir vibe that they're going for in the Batman, sort of transitioning and going from that to a new form, a new point of view with Oz, and it's Gotham during the day. I was a little bit worried, and then also in the storytelling, I'm like, what can you do with this character for 8 episodes? But in All Out Gang War, sure, that does sound cool, but then you throw like other characters like Vic into the mix, and then Oz has his mother, and you have all these other characters that are coming, and you're like, whoa, this is actually starting to get really interesting. And just watching this develop as a first episode, I was like, this is actually really good. We have something like kind of special on our hands. And even that minor sort of worry that I did have with like the concern of visuals was slowly put to rest because when I read or when I saw interviews from Matt Reeves and he was talking about how they kind of the point of view shift that I mentioned was also kind of deliberate way for the camera work to evolve. So they switched from, because Greg Fraser had a lot of sort of locked on, it was camera mounted shots. So it was like stationary cam. Like you look at the corners of the screen, you don't see like that little shake, which OCD person like me, I love when a camera's like focused and there's little to no movement on it. But when they did the Penguin, Matt Reeves, it was an actual idea. It's like, what if we do this handheld? Because we have obviously Oz's Waddle, but like the personality of being sort of erratic and there's danger and there's a sense of tension. If we have that little bit of movement, it can create almost a bit of anxiety and a rush. So it's that sort of layer of visual storytelling that they incorporate, and it just helps with that point of view shift, and we're going with a different character, so this is sort of looking at the world through their eyes, and I think it actually helps the story. And I'm kind of starting to be glad that they didn't just stick with like the same exact way the Batman was shot. I know it's kind of crazy to say because it's honestly, to me, it's the most beautiful comic book movie like visually shot I've ever seen. The camera work there is just phenomenal, fantastic. And Roger Deakins was right. It was absolutely snubbed at the Oscars back in, I mean, they do it the following year, so 2023, but it's just, I've never seen better like shots for a comic book movie. But even going beyond that, like having to worry about how do you replicate Gotham, because Gotham in the Batman was not just like how Christopher Nolan did Chicago and you're like, okay, there's Chicago, or there's a shot of Did he use Manhattan? I feel like he didn't use Manhattan for The Dark Knight Rises when they did like the bridge explosions and blowing up, but I know for a vast majority it was Chicago. But with Matt Reeves, of course, he did pull in some bits of Chicago, but then you also go to Liverpool to get this Gothic architecture, and then you use like a basis of a building in New York, and then you do like CG buildings around it when you're using the volume, and it's in the backdrop, so it's not necessarily like 100% VFX. It's just kind of there blurred in the background, but it gives the illusion of this is a semi-real fake city with like that ancient Gothic history and architecture, and it gives like that world building that we love. So then how do you replicate that in an HBO show, which of course is big budget, but I don't think that was the intention, because this was originally Mac's show. So I think if this from the get-go was an HBO show, it might have been like a little bit more like money thrown their way, but I'm not complaining because I think they did a really solid job from what I've seen of the first episode. Like they had to recreate the set of the exterior of the Iceberg Lounge, and then they did obviously the CG of Wayne Tower in the background with like the Gotham Tribune clock tower that you can always see as kind of like the center of Gotham. It's in a lot of shots in the Batman. It's in a lot of shots of the Penguin, as well as Wayne Towers in a lot of shots. So that's also something I'm going to try to point out every episode, because it's cool. I love seeing that Wayne Tower is there, and also kind of, I think it works thematically, because when you have Oz on the ground and you see like this tower in the background that's just like front and center and high and mighty, it goes back to what the Riddler said of like being at the top of the world, so to speak, and just looking down on everyone else. It shows like that. It just shows like the economic disparity between like the higher class and the lower class, which I think is great, because it's just something that is there, and it's not necessarily, you're not going to draw too much attention on it, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, there's Bruce Wayne, and look at you, you're immediately drawn upwards, because there's always the association of being like up with being high and mighty and rich. And so I love just like a little detail that they don't need any dialogue for. It's just there in the background, but it can already do so much to show you like what a difference in like class. So that's just like a little detail that I've noticed and I like, because I know we're going to get a lot of shots like that. Just from the trailer alone, there were a lot of shots of Wayne Tower, which I'm like, yes, give it to me. But more in general about like the Gothic architecture, I know they did not shoot in Liverpool. I think this was 100% shot in New York. So I've never been to New York. It's like a neighbor state of where I live, but I've never been there. And sure, it is a little worrisome that it's like, I don't want Gotham to just become New York. But then you also have to consider, which a lot of people did not know, is that Gotham in the Batman, in the Reevesverse, this universe, it's in 3 islands, very much like how Arkham Knight had Miagani, Founders, and Bleak Island, I believe. So there's Uptown, Midtown, and Downtown. I always thought Bruce Wayne was going to be in Uptown, but based on like the way the geography, it's not one-to-one with like the map and this book right here. You can't see it because the title's like off camera. This is The Art of the Batman. That's where I got like a lot of my information, but it's not a one-to-one scale, because like the movie shot was like a reversed lower Manhattan for the like the final third act. So it's the scale, you have to kind of like suspend your belief. But I was always assuming that Uptown was where Bruce Wayne lived, and that's where Wayne Tower in the park is. But I think it's in Midtown, just going by like piecing together, this bridge connects to this island, so therefore it's on this island. But yeah, that was just something that I've always known for like years at this point, because I try not to get pissed off because not everyone knows, but when you see the same thing when you're on like a sub on Reddit and it's like over and over again, people are like, ooh, the Batcave is flooded, he needs a new bat suit, he needs a new Batmobile, now that all of Gotham's flooded, Mr. Freeze is coming, Killer Croc's gonna be in the water. I'm like, guys, it was downtown, it was one island, just stop, do some research, please. You're killing me. But I do understand not everyone's gonna know that, but just as like a hardcore fan, I'm like, ah. So yes, Gotham is a very big place. It's a big city, and I know he can't be everywhere, but it just shows you that architecture and sort of like the way things are laid out and how they look, I understand. And I get that they can look different, especially when you're going for like the more like rich neighborhoods. They're going to look different. They're going to look cleaner than the shit and trash everywhere in downtown. So that's just something that I've kind of learned to live with because some of the visuals I'm like, yes. And then others I'm like, okay, that they could have done a little bit more for that, but it's nitpicky. Again, a large part of it is because you have a layer of sunlight. There's no dark, there's no nighttime, and then there's no rain because it rained forever in the Batman, which is like one of my favorite. Well, there's only very few weathers, but I absolutely love the rain. And again, heavy 7 vibes. So it adds to that grunge and grit, and just having the dark with the rain, it does sort of transform any city. So when you take that out, you subtract it from the equation of course it's going to be like a little different. Like, what is this? This is still Gotham. It's like, yes, it's Gotham during the day on a clear day. So I did think the visuals were good. And then something that just like completely elevated this and just was like, whoa, was the mature rating. I knew it was going to be rated TVMA 18. It's kind of weird to always say that because it's more simpler when you have movies and you're like, oh, it's PG-13, it's rated R. But it's different for TV. It's like TVMA 14, TVMA 18. That's just how it goes. But just hearing characters being able to express themselves like vocally the way they want, it's just funny, especially when Oz, the way he's talking, I really appreciate. I find it funny, even though he's not trying to be funny. So it still has that humor, which is good. But then when you have the intense scenes of like action and they sort of like really push it where you see like blood and that sort of like almost vulgar visual violence, or you're like, oh God. Especially when like Sofia had Oz captured and she was confronting him about the death of Alberto and he was just completely stripped naked and they did the torture with it was almost like a garrote with the wire under the arm. The shit like that you can't do in a PG-13 movie. You're just not going to have the same room. And they talked about this. Having that more mature rating just opens up the doorways for much more like ways to go about it. And also, and I don't want to be the person to say this, but I do think that if it can work as rated R, I feel like you should go for it because it's more impactful when you have the language, the violence, and the sort of blatant uncomfortability that comes with like actually seeing things happen rather than it's like, oh, the character goes to strike and then the camera cuts to like, you're not seeing that. But when you're actually seeing it, it adds to the tension and the impact in the moment because like, holy shit, I just watched that. That makes me uncomfortable and it just adds to whatever the story's trying to tell for that character. Like, this is a dangerous person. This is a crazy person. So having that bit of extra room for language and violence, I think it's really good so far for the show. And when there are hopefully more spinoffs, because they have been talking about it, and I do think we're going to get at least one more. I hope they do, and I believe they will stick with this TVMA 18 rating, which is very exciting because I do want to see more of this, and I hope that the Batman Part 2, I know the Batman kind of rode the line really heavily, but I feel like there's a little bit more room to squeeze before you go to rated R, so I hope the PG-13 ratings just like absolutely pushes to the max for the second movie. And just like another thing that I thought worked really well for this first episode so far is a pretty damn important one when it comes to like anything you're trying to do for like a story, whether it's a book, a video game especially, and obviously a show or a movie, is the pacing. And I thought this was incredibly well paced. It had the tender moments between characters where they could talk about their feelings. They can get the conversation out. There was no need for like music in some scenes or we need some action to like break it up. It was really developing the characters. And I like that more slow paced, methodical story. I mentioned this before. I'm always a fan that advocates for just like, here, let's get down the characters and sort of their goals, what they're aspiring to be, really get at like the crux of what made them the way they are and which direction they're going. I always love when we deal with characters and sort of their ambitions and their ideas and we find a connection to that as a viewer. We might be like, hey, this little part of my life resembles that in some way. And then we have that connection. Like, I love those little bits of storytelling. That's what I look for most in just like everything, even video games, which is, I know it's an unpopular opinion. People are like, oh, I want to play video games to have fun. I'm like, I'm looking for a good damn story and I want characters to fall in love with. But that was just something I was glad to see, especially when you consider the beginning into ends, like the sort of the parallel between when Oz and Vic, they were talking about the slush puppies when he like first got him in the car. He's like, yeah, you like my car so much you can drive it. Then they drove and they had the conversation about how we used to go with his brothers and they would mix the flavors. And then at the very last scene of the episode, once there was like the conclusion of the arc and the story that we were telling for this particular episode, they did that. And I'm like, look at it going full circle. I'm like, that's perfect. That's how you begin and that's how you end. But even like the in between, the middle of it, when we had Alberto's death all the way to Sofia like confronting Oz about it, tying him up and doing that sort of torture interrogation, if you will, that all happened in one episode and it didn't seem out of place because normally if you have a show like something like that, like the big like, oh my God, these two characters are going to meet at a tense point, that would be saved for like further down the road. But they did that in the first episode, but it still held relevance because it was building on the idea of finding a scapegoat. I'm going to start playing them and then we're just getting started. So I love that it's going at a very comfortable and a very good pace for like building characters, but also getting to those intense moments. So I think it's handling that very well. And naturally, I hope that I can't judge for the rest of the show because I haven't seen it, but I would hope, and I do have some faith that it's going to continue this trend of like good solid pacing between these tense action moments, but then the characters and their development. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And as for just like Oz in general, man, I didn't think I would like the character as much as I do. I really enjoyed Colin Farrell's performance in the Batman. It was like sort of the comedic relief, but it was also when they described him as like the red herring, this very underestimated guy. He's not in a lot of scenes, so you're not really sure where he comes from, and ultimately like he's gonna rise to be like the new kingpin of Gotham. But actually being able to see that, but then get more insight into his history, his personality, and who he truly is, it's something that I enjoyed watching, and I'm like excited to see more of that like further down in the next episode that we're about to see. Well, actually, this will be at the end of the second episode reaction. It's always like a twister doing this. And just seeing Oz like completely transform Colin, like when I watch interviews of him talking about the character, and then you just see his performance here, and a lot of that can be attested to the great prosthetic work of Mike Marino. And I hope he continues in the future. I'm sure he will, at least for Penguin. But if we do other characters, like if we do like Golden Age Clayface in the next one or something, which he talked about, he has some ideas, like keep him along. He also did Barry's Joker in the deleted scene. I mean, you also had the one at the end that was kind of like, it was darkened because there was not a lot of sun and he was in the shadow. So I don't know if they applied 100%, and there still might be like some room where Matt is like, let's go in a different direction or whatever. So things might shake up, but I still hope to see Mike Marino continue because I think his work is brilliant, dude. At least I cannot, when I try to analyze and see like, hey, here's where the skin, his natural skin meets like where the prosthetic begins. I'm looking for that and I just don't see it. And the movement on his mouth, like the sort of like his double chin, but it also has like stubble and then the scars that give you an impression of the beak with the eyebrows, and they're kind of like bushy with slight whitish gray hairs to give the illusion of the penguin. A lot of it is just like to give you like, it looks so real. The creases in the skin, the pores, the wrinkles, just the movement. It's all so natural and real that if this doesn't win an Emmy, because they didn't win, the Whale won the Oscar for, which is also great prosthetic work, but if this doesn't win the Emmy for prosthetic work, then I don't know, because the Last of Us Part 2, it's not Part 2, The Last of Us Season 2 is coming out in the same year, so they're gonna fight that House of the Dragon and the Penguin, which is a very questionable decision for HBO when they're like, we're gonna have all our three like sort of flagship kind of franchises go at each other in a single year for the Emmys. But I don't know if like, I'm sure it would when you do what are they called? I mean, they're called zombies, but I don't know. When you do like the zombies for The Last of Us and they have like the fungal spores and shit, I think that counts as prosthetic work. So if that wins, I get it because it does look really good. But this and having an actor for the entire episode, their entire scenes being able to maneuver themselves and talk and also display that emotion, I think that is like really, really impressive. And I hope that gets some recognition. But that just really boils down to the performance too. And I think Colin Farrell's doing just like an amazing job of making him like a multi-dimensional character, because I know Oz is a bad guy, but there is also like a tenderness and a heart to him, which is displayed when he was talking about like Rex Calabrese and how he was like his idol, but he gave back to the community. He would give you the cash, find you a doctor. So there is there's a good nature like buried deep within him, which I appreciate. I at times I will like when a villain is just, I'm a villain, I'm bad, I'm evil, I'm just gonna mess shit up and I'm not gonna do anything else. There's no goodness in my heart. I do like that for certain characters and certain situations, but I also do love when there's that one redeemable quality within a villain that it's like, is there enough for it to bleed out in a sense? Will we ever get to experience that? And with Oz, I'm wondering the same. That's something I like, and I'd like to see more of. And we've seen that with his mother, like his secret mother that he has stashed away now moving. But at the forefront of that, I feel like his relationship with Vic is really gonna show you how much of a good man is within this, like underneath all that exterior of pain and violence. Yeah, dude. And with Vic, I didn't know he was gonna have the stutter. That's something that caught me off guard. It was like the same thing with because I stay on top of all these interviews and I like read everything, and I had no idea he was gonna have the stutter. But that's when they did the in the Batman when Selena was working at the Iceberg Lounge originally and Batman was meeting with the Penguin and then she walked in the movie theater. I had the same reaction that Batman did because I was like, holy shit, Selena? What? She's working for Oz? What's going on? But the same thing with when Vic started having like the fear stutter and just like the speech impediment in general. That's something I had no idea was going to happen, but I think it adds a bit to like the story they're trying to tell. And especially now that he's going to be like sort of like the young protege of Oz in a manner of speaking. Because I do know that for one, Oz is going to take advantage of him and have his like henchmen that he's going to order around out of fear. But towards the end of that episode, we start to see that this relationship might become more than just, I'm using you, I'm gonna intimidate you, I don't care about you. It might be like, hey, we have like a genuine kind of relationship connection almost. But I think where that all comes from is like a reflection of Oz himself. So one thing I not noticed, but what I was reading personally as a viewer, when they were having the scene where he was like flipping out the cigar and it was kind of funny because like you think he's going to do the gun. He's like, no, smoke this. And it's just like, what the hell is he doing? But when Vic was trying to explain to him that he's like not a waste and that he has ambition, he can do this. I feel like there was a sense of connection between Oz and Vic in that moment, even though like you can't really read it. There was nothing to give you because you can interpret things a lot of way. And I don't think it's like one answer. It's like, oh, he's using him and that's the only answer. I think there's like a bunch of reasons going into this. But in that moment where he has the stutter and he's this young, underestimated, and you wouldn't look at Vic at first glance and be like afraid or think that he's going to be like this grandiose, like I'm the kingpin, I'm the ruler, and I'm at the top of the mountain. But that's also something that could be said for Oz with this guy with this leg condition. And then of course he's got the scarred up face. He has an unusual look that people no doubt will point to and make fun of. Having them both be in a position to be underestimated by like the average person, I think that's where Oz might see himself in Vic. And I think there's sort of like a vulnerability there and a tenderness because it's like he can see himself in him. This is everything I want. Because when Vic said, I just need a chance, like that's all Oz has been looking for, that golden opportunity to rise to the top. Now that Carmine's gone, like he can fully realize his dream. But from the get-go, all he was looking for is a chance despite things that might set him back, such as his leg, his appearance. And then for Vic, it's being young and experienced alone. And then he has the stutter. So I don't want to read into it too much, but I think that might be like another reason why Oz is going to like slowly kind of like their relationship. There's going to be like the foundation and then like the building of it and the growth. Cause it is kind of like, hey, here's my apprentice in a sense. But of course, with these kinds of shows, when you have like crime mob shows, like I don't think Vic is going to make it to the last episode. Like, I don't think beyond the last episode, Vic is going to be alive. I 100% think Vic is going to die. I don't know who's going to kill him. I don't know how it's going to happen. But if I had to place a bet, I would say Vic is going to die. Then that's kind of an easy estimate because I don't know how you could just like go about that in the future, especially in the Batman Part 2. If it's like, hey, he confronts Oz and like here's his second in command, it's this young kid Vic, it'd just be like, what's going on here? It would kind of look a little out of place, but I don't want anything bad to happen to Vic. I don't want him to get arrested. I don't want to see him in jail. He's doing bad things with Oz and I'm like, I don't want to see these guys get punished for it. Free my boys. But yeah, I don't think he's gonna. Imagine if there was like a twist where it's like Oz had to kill him or there was just something, I don't know, because they did describe that Oz is gonna do something. Or, I mean, that could be said for a lot of things, that Oz is going to do something that as a viewer is going to like completely turn you off from the character and be like, I can't believe you did that. And I can't believe I was rooting for this guy. I don't know. I don't know how Vic would die. I don't know if it would be like, oh, Sophia's going to get to him or something, but I 100% I don't think he's going to like outlive this series. And speaking of Sophia, we have, I'm so bad with names, Kristen Milioti. She was in How I didn't see How I Met Your Mother, but I know the running joke with calling her mother, which I did actually do because she is, dude. Look at her. But no, wow, dude. Her as Sophia, because it's funny because when I kept up with like casting updates, when I saw she was cast as Sofia Falcone, because a lot of people are like, oh, she's not like Sophia from The Long Halloween, who's like this gigantic lady that looks like she can like snap you in two. And the actress is like kind of like the Zoe Kravitz, like smaller. She's like pretty short. So it's like a huge, the height thing is way off. But I'm like, the performance is going to have to like go in overdrive to compensate for that like sort of fear factor, because she might not have that physical fear factor, but still having that intimidating presence by like reputation and her actions, that could do something far more than any sort of like physicality could, if that makes sense. Kind of like Cersei in Game of Thrones. She's not going to beat you in a sword fight, but she's like scary because she's very intelligent, but then she's also sadistic and she does not give a shit about anyone else that's like not in her immediate family. And the same could be said for Sofia too. But just from the first, there was one like sort of, I wouldn't say technically it was leaked. There was like the picture of her in the back seat of like the SUV, like the Cadillac that took her. It was when they were filming. This was like one of the first sets they did with her in the public. There was a picture of her and she was like smoking a cigarette in the back seat, but just, it's kind of weird because I don't want to be like sound like an art person, like, oh, look at all like the majesty that you could see in it. But just looking from the look on her face, I got the sense that she was going to play a very weighty character and just be like utterly transformed into Sofia and all like what's going on in her mind. And just knowing that she's going to be like a bit of a psychopath, having history in Arkham, but then also be that, like Cersei, devilishly intelligent, and how those two things mash up to make like an antagonist, somebody to oppose Oz. I'm like, that's going to be really good. And I feel like she might actually steal the show. And that's what reviewers were saying. But this was just a feeling I had long before I even saw trailers. And when I saw trailers, I'm like, I feel like she's gonna eat, man. And oh my God, dude, in this first episode, damn. Like that conversation they had in the restaurant, I thought was just, not only was it like a brilliant interaction, but the acting there and the sort of like nuances they took in their performance, in her performance when she was like reading Oz and semi kind of putting out there that I'm on to you, but just kind of like slapping him in the face by calling him an idiot in a sense, and knowing that she's got him, and then he's also trying to like manipulate the truth, but she's still holding on to like, I know what you did. Like that just conversation of who is winning the argument. And it's like shifting between manipulation and just like a kind of blatant threat, I thought was like incredible. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to see her sort of like unhinged. And then by the time we got to the end of the episode, when she just went full on, stripped him naked and just berated him with her like psycho eyes and look, I was like, she is scary, man, dude. She's really scary. But that's just like a wonderful, really, really good performance, dude. Colin killed it, but I feel like I'm gonna, at the end of this, be in the position of the reviewers saying that she like kind of stole the show. But it's kind of hard because whenever you have an antagonist, I feel like they're always in more of an opportunity to be like a bigger sort of focal point of acting, because there's a bigger degree to being like bad and opposing someone than there is being like good all the time. That's why Batman never gets like no one's gonna nominate Batman for an Oscar. It's always like Joker. It's always the person opposed to him, because I just feel like villains have more leeway to, I know Oz is a villain in this, but he's like more the protagonist of the story, but villains always have like more ground to cover and things they can do to like make their acting shine, because they're making that uncomfortability. And if that resonates with the viewer, starting to get hiccups, then it really cements the performance, because they're accomplishing what they're trying to do by making it like a multi-layered thing of like, I'm intimidating the character and I'm also intimidating the person watching this product. So it's like a twofold thing. But I thought she was outstanding, and I don't know, because in trailers I saw a lot of Oz and Sofia together, and now that this is out of the way, I was like, she might be more of like an associate rather than somebody against Oz. But I feel like the relationship's going to develop to where they are kind of like, you have to keep your enemies close, like that kind of situation. So I can definitely see that happening, but she's still like going to be the one who's directly like, nope, this is my empire. And then Oz is trying to, of course, infiltrate that. And he's using the Maronis to get what he wants. And he's starting this gang war and playing Inside Man to both, which is also like, I believe it's the title for the second episode is Inside Man. But I just can't wait to see more of her, because I think she's really good. And I was always excited to see her performance. And she did not disappoint at all in this first episode. Just like, hats off to her, dude. She was fantastic. And honestly, the same can be said for Oz's mother. I knew she was going to have like the dementia thing And you were going to get some, I knew beforehand you were going to get, I mean, this is just in general, because obviously if you're going to bring the mother into it, you're going to have like an inkling to their past and how they grew up. But you really got the sense when she was like calling out Oz for being weak and take credit for what you did. Don't be like, you killed them because you wanted to, not because it was impulsive. The actress too portraying her did a great job, because even like the little like shift of, you think she's like, oh, she's this, you have to be careful with her because she's got dementia and she's his mother, she's alone, and we have like these gang people that might kill her to get at Oz. But then she's like, all of a sudden she's like this tough, making Oz be put in his place, like, this is my boy. And like, you're like, okay, wow. But you have to bring that into performance. And I thought she did, like a complete tonal shift when she like stood up, like, you know, why'd you kill him? Why'd you do it? Tell me. And I thought that was really well acted. And I want to see more of her. I also think that we're going to get I think we'll get some flashbacks of her, because when they were talking about aging up the character and down, I believe, in an interview, and I think we're going to get like young Oz. I know we saw like pictures of him, but I think we're going to get like young Oz with prosthetics, or maybe the origin of how he got that scar, and like maybe kids making fun of him. What the hell happened to his leg? But I feel like there's going to be a little bit of history between Oz's mom and Falcone, kind of like in a more truthfully version of like Penny Fleck and Thomas Wayne and Joker. Now, I'm not saying that Oz is the son of Carmine, but I think his mother might have been like a working girl. Maybe Carmine had an affair, because she was obviously in that circle to know about the Falcones, and something happened in her life to put her on this path of like being okay with murder and being ambitious and like, I want a better life. I want the money, and I want my own son to do whatever it takes to get that. So I think that she had to have been a part of that life and close to Falcone to be even at the state that she's at. And then, of course, impart that sort of philosophy and ambition and upbringing onto Oz. I think that all kind of comes from her and maybe her past with Falcone in whatever manner, if it was sexual or not. And it also makes me wonder what the hell happened to his brothers, because when he mentioned like the slush puppy thing with his brothers, I thought he was just using a term to describe his friends. Like, I didn't know he was going to actually have brothers in this, but we saw them in the pictures and she mentioned them like playing in the tub, but that's obviously like a side effect of her condition. But I think they might be dead, and I'm also wondering from that what the hell happened there. And just sort of the last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up, because I've been talking for a long time about episode 1, and I'm recording this before episode 2. I mean, it's still a little ways away before I actually get to see it. So, but I do want to edit this before I even record anything in regard to episode 2. But the last thing I want to talk about is like the connection to Batman. I knew we weren't going to get like any Batman in this. Matt Reeves has made that very clear, as well as the reviewers who were like, no Batman in the show. Disgusting. But that was actually something that I did wish we had Batman. But watching this first episode, I'm like, maybe not. Maybe it was the right decision and would sort of definitely take the spotlight away from Oz. But we did have mention of him in like the beginning, where it's like, we are live with the Batman vigilante atop Gotham Square Garden. But just even further than that, I hope that there is some mention of him. Like perhaps like there's a scene of Oz looking up and he sees like the bat signal at night, and he like makes like a snickering face, and then he gets in his car and he drives away. Like something a little thing like that would go. It would do wonders for world building, and something I hope to see. And then I would also like to say if like one of his henchmen was like, oh, the boys got hit by the bat, they got taken out, we lost the shipment or whatever. But then I feel like that might be an issue, because then if you put that in the show, certain viewers would be like, we're gonna get Batman, final episode, it's happening. So I understand. I'm interested to see how they do the balance, because I mentioned earlier we had Wayne Tower in the background, so something like that in the sort of foreground, out of the vicinity of like the character's like main sort of vision, but also just the kind of like sequences where you allude to the presence or the specter of the character. However they do that, I'm interested to see, but also just like if they are going to do it, which I hope there's more, and I want to see how that shakes out. If it's like deliberate or just like something you have to kind of like read in between the lines about. But yeah, those are my thoughts on episode 1. A really great episode, and it got my excitement for the next one like a lot higher. Just I mean, obviously, but I mentioned earlier, dude, it completely caught me off guard how good this series was going to be. And I hope that it matches the quality of this first episode, which is a hard thing to do, but massive credit to Lauren LaFranc. She's the one who wrote this. She was the writer / showrunner of the show that was approached by Matt Reeves, and she wrote like pretty much everything by herself. So to come up with like original characters, reinterpret characters, and then come up with this plot of like, we're going to have the protege vulnerability sort of relationship between Oz and Vic in the midst of an all-out gang war power vacuum created by the post-Riddler flood. And then you have Oz playing Inside Man and dealing with the psychopath Sofia, that all characters she wrote, she's getting at the emotions and what these characters are. So I think she did a great job. And I hope people like, it's kind of like the thing with I think I mentioned earlier, because I'm recording these things out of sequence, and I think I'm going to mention it at some point. Matt Tomlin, he went uncredited for the Batman because he came in later and helped with the third act and like polished most of the script. But because he went so late in the process, he didn't get any credit. Like a lot of people were like, who's Matt Tomlin? But he did from the get-go write the Batman Part 2 with Matt Reeves. So of course he'll be like credited for that. But it's just always like writers getting credit for the work. That's something I'll always advocate for. So Lauren LaFranc did a great job with this. And if you didn't know that, now you know, because she did a really good job. But again, this was the episode 2 and 1.33, because this was only the first 20 minutes. So it was a third of the first episode reaction. So that was this video. Next time we will have, of course, episode 3 reaction. I am going to do movie reactions, but there's some things I have to work out on my end before I can get into that. So the next episode is going to be like the next like reaction video on my channel, not including like edits that I do like throughout the time in between these episodes. So I'm not going to comment on like the movie side just now. I'll kind of wait till I got that like figured out and hammered down for like a process. So until then, have a great rest of your day, rest well, and until the next.